Hello and welcome to Any Given Sunday's Scripted Saturday. I'm your host, Coop, and today I'm going to be discussing my opinions about every quarterback in the NFL. You all know how tier lists work, I'm sure, but in case you've been living under a rock, the tiers are named after exactly how I feel about each quarterback. Obviously, I have no idea how the rookies are going to do, so they get their own tier, but some teams have multiple potential starters, and it just hasn't been worked out at this point in the summer. Without further ado, let's get started. Starting with the rookie tier. I've tiered these rookies based on my expectations for them. Anyone below the rookie tier has not been ranked according to how I see them because I don't care about backups and third strings. I just don't. The rookie I have the lowest expectations for is Dillon Gabriel. He's short and he played at Oregon, a school that only produces a good quarterback every 50 years or so, and only for the AFC West. It helps that he's the quarterback that Cleveland actually wanted, but Jimmy Haslam hates me, he hates Cleveland, and he hates football, so if the Browns start a rookie, it'll be Shedeur Sanders. Talent be damned. Next, I've got Tyler Shugg. He's the presumed starter to me in New Orleans. We both know what Jay Kaner and Spencer Rattler are at this point in their career, and not exactly starting caliber. I'd expect Kellen Moore to treat New Orleans more like he treated Dallas than he treated Philly, but what do I know? Maybe we'll see Alvin Kamara finally go for 1,000 yards of the ground, and Shugg's job will be to throw slants, deep balls, and run play action. I'm not excited. Next is Jackson Dart, someone who, if I were the head coach of the Giants, would not see the field at all under any circumstances this year. I get that he was a first round pick, but holy shit, is he not ready. While I was having this very calm discussion with a coworker of mine, he brought up that Dart modeled his play after Jalen Hurts, but like, I watched rookie Jalen Hurts, and I wouldn't want that guy to start over 2025 Russ or 2025 Jameis. Sanders is probably going to start for Cleveland in 2025 because Jimmy Haslam hates God, and because his supporting cast isn't terrible, he'll probably be okay. Next is Cam Ward. I have the highest expectations for the first overall pick. Go figure. He's far and away the most talented rookie quarterback, but his supporting cast leaves a lot to be desired, is how I'll choose to phrase that. Which is going to hold him back. And finally, rounding out the rookies, I have J.J. McCarthy. Argue with a wall. The bottom of this tier list is made up mostly of teams with quarterback by committee. So at the very bottom, we have the entire Saints quarterback room. Ahead of them is 2 out of 3 Brown starters, with Flacco ahead of the pack. I have Daniel Jones behind Flacco, but in front of the other Brown starters, and Anthony Richardson in front of Flacco, because I watched more Colts games than I'd like to admit, and Richardson was better in that offense than Flacco was. Ahead of Richardson is Michael Penix, someone I'm very much expecting to rise on this list over the course of the year. I just wouldn't take him over anyone above him right now. Next, I have Aaron Rodgers, someone who could rise or fall depending on how this season goes in Pittsburgh. I hated his Jets tenure, but there's probably still some amount of juice left in his arm. I hope. I've been pretty mean to the Steelers, and it's kind of on Rodgers to put up to shut me up, but we'll see how it goes. Ahead of Rodgers, I have Jameis Winston because fuck you, arm talent, go Burr. At the bottom of D tier, I have Justin Fields, someone who could rise or fall depending on his quarterback stock at any given point this year, but I feel like it's kind of going to stay where it is for a majority of the year. I watched a lot of his Bears tenure, hoping for the best, and was severely disappointed the whole way through. A part of me is still holding out hope, but it's starting to get dire. Ahead of him, I have Russell Wilson, an old but potentially productive vet, especially with a solid backfield by committee, a true blue superstar at receiver 1 in Malik Neighbors, and holy shit, does that defense look lethal. This could be a bounce back season for us, or he could fail spectacularly in East Rutherford and leave the Giants in purgatory. As long as Russ and Jameis help Dart progress and get up to speed at the NFL level, it won't be a lost season, which means we really can't judge this Giants year until next year, if that makes sense. Ahead of Russ is Kyler Murray, someone who could rocket up this standings if he actually lives up to the potential that he shows. It's also like year 7 at this point, so if he doesn't turn it on, Kyler could be on a new team next year. Ahead of Murray, I have Tua Tagovailoa, which is kind of representative of how I feel about the Dolphins as a whole. How is it possible for someone to be that bad in sub 40-degree weather? I don't know, but from a pure quarterbacking standpoint, I trust him second least in the East. Speaking of the AFC East, at 21, I have Josh Allen. No, I'm fucking with you. It's Drake May. May showed a ton of promise and potential as a rookie, enough to excite people going into year 2 with a new coaching staff, new receiver 1, and a revamped defense to help the young superstar reach his potential. This won't be the only purely positive review in the bottom half of this list, but it's one of a few, mostly other young guys who I feel haven't hit their potential yet. Speaking of not hitting their potential, Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence is running out of rope in Jacksonville. He was such a talented prospect coming out of Clemson, but if the Liam Cohen tenure doesn't work out, Lawrence isn't making it to a 4th head coach. Hell, he may not make it all the way through head coach 3. If his stats don't improve, if his tenure doesn't improve under Liam Cohen, he'll be gone in the blink of an eye. Above Lawrence, so the first somewhat controversial take in this video, unless you're a Dolphins fan, is Caleb Williams. He's ranked ahead of Lawrence because he was the best quarterback prospect since Lawrence, and he's got a lot more slack left on his rope. I believe that Ben Johnson can help Caleb Williams maximize his potential and abilities in Chicago, and I think that multiple MVPs and Super Bowl MVPs are still in the cards for this kid. That all being said, ahead of Williams, I have Sam Darnold. Darnold is kind of the Trevor Lawrence of Geno Smiths, by which I mean he's the most talented at a base rate of the newly minted revival quarterbacks. Darnold is at 18 mostly because I have no fucking clue if 2024 was a flash in the pan. Is he the next Geno Smith? Seattle certainly hopes so, but I don't know. If Clint Kubiak and the Seahawks coaching staff can't replicate whatever success the Vikings coaching staff had last year, a staff that also had Darnold throwing to the best wideout in the entire NFL, by the way, things could get brutal. In front of Darnold, I have Bo Nix, someone I have to assume was at his worst last year in the least Sean Payton-y offense we've ever seen. Now, with the addition of the ever underrated Evan Ingram, we're going to see an offense that looks a lot more like what Drew Brees was running in New Orleans. If Nix is even a third or half the quarterback that Drew Brees was in his prime, this Broncos offense is going to be dangerous. This Broncos team is going to be threatening for a Lombardi. And Nix could easily find himself in the top 6 or 7 guys in the NFL, interchangeable with another 3 or 5 guys around that same mark. Someone with a similar amount of potential, but a slightly higher chance of getting there this year, in my opinion, is Bryce Young. Young being at 16 doesn't mean he's the most mid quarterback in the NFL. In fact, Darnold probably holds that distinction for me. Just that he's the quarterback I'm least confident in ranking. He could be 25 by the end of next year, or he could be top 5 for all we know. Jordan Love rounds out the bottom of the top half of this list. Similarly to Bryce Young, I really just don't know how he's going to do this year. I don't know where I'm going to rank him by the end of it. He throws more what the fuck did I just watch interceptions than any quarterback I've ever seen. And if he doesn't cut that shit out, he's going to miss the playoffs eventually. If he does cut that shit out, we could be looking at an Aaron Rodgers type career for the man that studied under him for the first 4 years of his career. The next 2 guys are the most interchangeable quarterbacks in the entire NFL to me, and they are Dak Prescott and Geno Smith. I want to be abundantly clear. Dak and Geno being at 13 and 14 isn't about them. It's not about the teams that they play on. It's not about them. It's about the guys ahead of them. What they bring to the table, whether youth or ability, that these 2 guys lack. Geno was the first in what appears to be a trend of late risers at the quarterback position. Dak was an MVP candidate in 2023, something not to be overlooked after his 15 interception 2022. Geno had a season like that in 2024, and with a bunch of interceptions that, when you get down to it, really weren't his fault. I expect a bounce back year from Geno in 2025 in the same way we saw Dak's bounce back in 2023 and continue to be great for what of 2024 he played. If Dak hadn't gotten hurt, we might even be talking about him as a top 10 guy. But I'll be honest, even though these two are the most interchangeable quarterbacks in the NFL to me, 10 to 14 are all interchangeable to me. I think Dak and Geno are just the worst of them, but not by a huge margin. Up next is Justin Herbert, someone who looked like a future MVP candidate after his rookie year and has failed to live up to the hype ever since. Still, despite a down year statistically, anyone who actually watched the Chargers know that Herbert was kind of the reason that the whole thing worked. Why then is he 12? It's his fucking playoff performances, man. I have never seen a quarterback who is so great in the regular season sink so low in the playoffs. I'm too young to have watched Peyton in his prime. It is what it is. But I have watched Lamar for his entire career, and let me assure you, Herbert is a bigger playoff sinker. 4 interceptions against that fucking team? Are you serious? Speaking of that playoff game, CJ Stroud is next. Another guy whose tape is much better than his numbers, but let's be real. His offensive line was dog shit. Not as bad as Geno's in Seattle, but woof. Stroud had a rotating cast of characters at wideout for a majority of the season as well, with all 3 of his top guys missing time at various points, often at the same time. That, in addition to the dismal play of his line, just led to a down year statistically that Stroud and Houston would probably rather forget. At 10, and rounding out this set of interchangeable quarterbacks, is Jared Goff. I put Goff at 10, but you can swap him for Stroud, Herbert, Geno, or Dak, and I would not be upset about it. Goff has easily the best supporting cast of the guys that I mentioned, but holy shit does he deliver when called upon. A goofball no more, Jared is ready for another great year in 2025. Now, I'll warn you in advance, we've got another stretch of 5 quarterbacks that I think are roughly interchangeable. 5 to 9 are all roughly the same caliber of quarterback, and if you swap them onto each other's teams, not all that much would change, in my opinion. At 9, I have Brock Purdy. Purdy is the one thread holding the Niners together, and as I outlined last week, the only reason that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan still has a job, because you can't take a swing and miss that big on Trey Lance unless you grab somebody like Purdy in the 7th round the following year. Purdy has obliterated the rest of the NFL so far, and the only year he didn't was because the Niners were so hungover from the Super Bowl loss that they walked into traffic and got hit by an 18-wheeler. Twice. I'd expect another great year from him, and I'd expect the Niners to be better in general. And I'd even expect Purdy's name to be floated in MVP conversations. Above him, another potential MVP candidate, I have Baker Mayfield. Mayfield has risen back to prominence in Tampa Bay and is the most successful so far of the Canales Revival quarterbacks. If the addition of Ibuka is as impactful as I'm expecting it to be, they could be competing for the 1 seed and even a Super Bowl as soon as this year. Above him is Jaden Daniels, a quarterback I respect a great deal. He transformed that franchise as a rookie. And while I think he's probably due for regression this year, that's only because of how high he set the bar last year. The guy I have ranked at 6 is Matt Stafford. Stafford may be 37, but holy shit, does he still have it. Watching him play last year was an absolute treat, just like it always is. And I can't wait to see what he's got in this new revamped offense. Rounding out the final set of roughly interchangeable quarterbacks, I have Jalen Hurts. Putting him at 5 is probably inflammatory, but don't look at the placement. Listen to what I'm saying. If you put 2024 Jalen Hurts on the Commanders, Rams, Bucks, Niners, what do you think happens to those teams? The Rams become Super Bowl contenders. The Commanders become Super Bowl contenders. The Bucks become NFC title contenders. And the Niners become playoff contenders, if not actually a playoff team. They may not get significantly better than they were, especially the Rams. I've got a hot take about that game that I'm going to discuss in detail at a later point. But they get better enough to advance 1 stage past where they were. And for the record, you put any of those quarterbacks on the Eagles, and the Eagles don't get significantly worse. I don't know for sure that they would have won the Super Bowl, but they don't get significantly worse. The other 4 guys would have lost passing yards in the Eagles' offense, and Hurts would have gained passing yards in any of theirs. It's just the way it is. These 5 guys could all swap teams and the league dynamics would not change that much. Above Hurts, and in an ecosystem of his own, as always, although in a different way this time, is Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes has been bad enough the last 2 years that you can't just rank him as the clear-cut number 1 guy anymore. All-time, sure. Of the active quarterbacks, yeah, I had to check that statement in real time, but he's better all-time than Stafford and Rodgers at this point. But you want to rank him all-time, Mahomes is the best active quarterback in the league. Fine. But he isn't the best starting quarterback right now. And I will not be taking criticism on that statement. Obviously, I ranked 3 guys ahead of him, and you already know who they are. And Mahomes makes all but 3 or 4 of the teams in the NFL better just by being on them, depending on how you feel about the Eagles. It's tough to get better than Super Bowl champs, but what do I know? Above Mahomes, I have Joe Burrow. I debated putting Burrow below Hurts because I can't resist the urge to shitpost. And while that is an opinion that I have held at various points, I wanted this to be taken seriously. The line is kind of blurred from Purdy to Burrow, but you can't drop Burrow any lower than 5. In second place, I have Josh Allen. I know, reigning MVP, but here's the thing, I really don't care. You can't even make the playoffs argument because he hasn't been that much better than Jackson. You want me to give him kudos for kicking the shit out of some 7 seeds? Fuck off. Both are AFC title contenders. Both have lost to Mahomes. End of story. At 1, obviously, that leaves Lamar, the reigning first-team All-Pro, back-to-back, the reigning first-team All-Pro quarterback, back-to-back years, and 2-time MVP, tops this list because I don't care about playoff performance as much as I do for guys who haven't won an MVP. Chargers! Jackson is the clear-cut best guy in the league and easily makes every other team in the league better, even making the Bengals a playoff team, a statement I don't make lightly. Well, there you have it, where I would rank the top 35 quarterbacks in the NFL, sans the rookies. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe. And we have some great content coming for you in the following weeks leading up to the season, and especially once the NFL season starts. Keep an eye out for the first episode of our podcast, the Any Given Sunday podcast, and that'll be going live soon. So other than that, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you next week.